Every relationship has its own challenges, as well as happy moments. While some are unique to each couple, others are more universal obstacles that lots of couples face. Facing relationship obstacles isn't easy. Facing relationship obstacles isn't easy, and whether or not they can be overcome depends on the choice that the couple makes to keep it, fight for it, and work for it. Motivational speaker and pastor at the New Covenant Church, Pastor Chris Atemo, together with his wife, Beryl Atemo, an administrative pastor in the same church, had a rough courtship as far as their marriage journey is concerned. The conviction that they were the perfect match for each other gave them the strength to stay married for now 14 years.
Basically organizing functions, paperwork, office work, putting things in order in church.
I am Chris Atemo. I'm a pastor, New Covenant Church. Yes. I preach, I shepherd the people. There's something I've been teaching with couples about what a covenant means. If marriage is a covenant, then marriage is the strongest bond of relationship that you have. So my strongest bond is not with my brothers. There's all these things people talk about, blood is thicker than water. My strongest bond is not with my brothers, it's with my wife. So when my brothers come around, we are one. That's how it is. This is a covenant. Covenant is a superior relationship.
Pastor Chris met his wife in church 18 years ago. The quiet and reserved Beryl was a visitor in church, and for Chris, who had already started having interest on her, trying to talk to Beryl was not something he wanted to fail at. He opted to wait until when the time was right to declare his intentions.
I saw her. I saw in church one of the times. Somewhere around 1998, I had attended this church that would go to in Kisumu. I grew up in Kisumu, and I'd attended this church, and then I saw her. I think I tried to follow her, and she disappeared somewhere along the line. She used to walk alone, and I tried to follow her, and then she disappeared somewhere. So, glory to God, one time he brought her back. I think she got into a matatu. I did not know she was going to use a matatu, so I was walking. And I was this kind of a person, think still am, who would not come to talk to anybody if I'm not sure of what I'm going to get as a response. I think I was very bad at failing, and so I did not want to attempt anything that I would fail at. Yeah. Interestingly, that when we first met, then after the first time that I saw her, when we first met, it wasn't a direct contact. It was through somebody else that was a friend and somebody I was mentoring. And then I realized they were friends. So that brought a complication. They had become friends, so that brought a complication over there. So suddenly I was thrown into this place where the people that I know now know her, she's in over there. And that's how then we started. I think the ice was broken then, because she was very reserved also. And that put up a platform for us to break the ice. Yeah. It took quite a while before I could talk about anything. We were in the spiritual church, It took quite a while. We were in the kind of church where the only time, people have been courting is the day when they're being announced that they're going to get married. It was not like today where people start dating today and their photos are all over Instagram and Facebook no. Those days you're not supposed to be seen together. You're not even supposed to behave like you like anybody. So it wasn't the easiest thing to approach anybody and talk to them and tell them, lest, in Christianity we go, you bind, so lest they think you have a devil. You're not spiritual. So it took some time before I did that. And when I did, I think I went a long way. Yeah, but eventually she responded well. She's here.
I thought he was a nice person, that's all. Because of the way he'd talk, Yeah, and then he was also a bit quiet compared to the other guys. I thought he was too quiet, so he was different from the other friends that we were with in the group. I thought he was a nice person generally, that's all. I didn't think much.
However, unlike today where people openly display their dating life on social media, theirs was apparently a quiet affair, since they were actively involved in church matters and it was against the tradition.
It wasn't very easy because I think we were almost like, we wanted to see each other a lot, but then we were people who were involved in church. And as you had said, that was not very easy. So it meant either we sneak, but then we couldn't. So we were meeting a lot. I'm from college. He either comes to pick me. And that didn't go very well with the people, the church leadership, but it was a bit rocky.
When Pastor Chris finally decided to open up with their relationship, all hell broke loose, both in church and at home, as all did not take it well that they were dating. Nevertheless, he had developed an inbuilt determination from his childhood, and this enabled him and his wife survive their tough courtship years.
I've done a lot of things for myself from a young age. I remember when I was in primary school, in the year that we were going to sit our exams, I was writing, I would have this newsletter. I would write the things that happen around. I would draw, because I was a fine artist. I would draw cartoons, do that, have the sports page, about 3 full scalps, written, handwritten, and then I take it around in class, and the people who would read it would pay me a shilling. You know, I had to find my way to high school. I looked for a different high school from the one that I was, that I got the letter for, that I was admitted to. I had to go. And at that time, I used hockey because I went to St. Patrick's Eton. I grew up in Kisumu, so I did not deserve to go to St. Patrick's High School in Eton, in Elgeyo-Marakwet. But I used hockey to go there. It was a fine school. The only way for me to have broken through in there was to find something else apart from academics. So I went one time over there and went and played. And then they picked me up based on sports. So, and from, I think from my 13th year, from when I was 13, I don't think my mother ever bought me anything. You know, from when I was 13, I bought everything for myself. Apart from the pocket money for school or something, but my clothing, all that kind of stuff, I bought for myself from around that time. So I think it's an inbuilt determination. You know, I exert hard on the things that I do. When I got into a relationship, I did not think that it was something to hide because we were meeting anyway. So I did not think that it was something to hide to meet, but brought me a lot of trouble because that was a lot of groundbreaking. So it brought me a lot of trouble, all kinds of assumptions, people thinking that, you know, they must be sleeping together. They cannot understand that you can get that close. I was somebody who was, you know, when I get close to somebody, I think I get quite tight with them. The harder part is to get close. After that, I'm very free. So I was used to college life. Hugging is part of the greetings. And now I get into a setting where hugging is sin, you know. So everything was wrong. And I kind of became the black sheep around that place because I had my hairstyle. Nobody was shaving the way I was shaving. So I had this hairstyle. That was a slope. Yeah, I had this slope. That alone was, you know, set me aside, like, he's not very spiritual. I was putting on jeans. That was unacceptable. So now the worst thing to do is to have a relationship in a church. And it was rocky, both with the church and then with the parents. The people in church to try to take word back now, family, and say these people are very disorderly. They're not doing the right. So it was quite rough then. But again, our friendship kept us going. So we were just enjoying ourselves. We knew that there was nothing wrong we were doing. And had strong conviction that this is the person that I needed to be with. So we weathered the storm. Well, initially, you know, it's just a thing of no parent wants to hear that their children disobedient or rebellious anywhere. So when somebody creates a perception that you are rebellious, and both our mothers, grew up mostly with our mothers, and both our mothers are teachers, and teachers most of the time, they will tend to listen to authority. So when somebody comes and there's already a bias over that, and they did not want embarrassment, they did not want a situation where they thought that we were out of line. My mother was in the same church, her mother was in the same church, so the respect that they have to the authority, they thought we were crazy. Something is wrong, and then it's like we were young, So, but we just weathered it. We believed in our friendship. We would just meet and talk. We love to go out. We like to sample the restaurants, the parks, the open places, just having fun.
Walking.
Yeah, walking a lot, talking a lot, singing a bit.
Yeah.
We love music. We shared quite a number of interests, which we still do right over now. So I think that was just too new for the people around us. The interesting thing is that the people who are not church people would come and tell us, we love how you people relate. Because they saw commitment, but the church people had a lot of issues. And part of the issues were also because by the time I was meeting her, she hadn't stayed in the church too long. So I think while people were still thinking of what to do, I moved too fast. And they were wondering, where did it come from? Yeah, but I think just normal. Though sometimes it really got intense, but went past it. Yeah. I think there was an engagement. We just hit it off.
We didn't have an official engagement.
We just hit it off.
We didn't have an official engagement. Somehow we just hit the road running.
We were just flowing.
Relating and then
Yeah, we were just flowing, and it was out. Actually, the reason why there was all this trouble was because it was out there,
It was out there from the one.
And we thought that that would be a good thing, just to let people know. We thought that would be bring some accountability, but other people thought different, So that was just. I've never been conventional in my thinking, and so now. My wife, she was getting a bit worried because she had never been in trouble before. She had never been in trouble. So here I am, and I have all these wild ideas, and she's never run into any trouble with any authority anywhere. And so trouble is coming in at some point. She said, my God, my life was peaceful without you. She thought I brought trouble to her life. And then I was trying to challenge what was the norm. I felt in various places, sometimes, again, people take advantage of people. I would say, look, there's nothing wrong you're doing, and you're growing up. There's certain decisions that you've got to make, certain things you've got to do. So we were all out there in the light.
I don't know whether I wasn't exposed to that kind of thing. But
We is old school.
We are old school.
We is old school.
I think that maybe I hadn't watched too many movies by then. I never expected an engagement, anything, or even a ring. Though, of course, I would have appreciated, but I didn't think of it. No, I didn't think no, I did not.
But who was engaging those days?
I don't remember.
One time she was kicked out of where she lived, in the middle of the night because of us relating. And so I had a knock at our door. And I opened the door, and so I thought it is a ghost. I didn't think, there's no way she walked at night, because we had been together during the day, the time, and I remember I told her that day, why don't you stay around? And I told her to spend at my mom's place that evening. She had to go home. I don't know whether it was a premonition or something, but then she was kicked out that night. She came in at midnight and carried these bags and whips on her back and bleeding and all that. That was part of her drama. And so we sat outside the whole night.
After 5 years of courtship and a lot of perseverance, the couple tied the knot in 2003. They settled to have no committee, and being an itinerary pastor, Pastor Chris used the money he received from selling his tapes to finance the ceremony.
The period was quite short because we decided in July that we needed to get married in September. So I was making these phone calls and she was making the phone calls, and so we started just going on, talking to our parents, talking to people who were influential in our lives, and we say, look, now we feel that the wedding needs to come. And I think by then, having related for way over 4 years, you know, we didn't need to prove any other point. We hadn't just met, so it wasn't a rush. It's something that they had known all this while, way from around 1998, coming to 2003, that's when we wedded. So told them in July, said we want to get married, and everybody was saying it's okay. I think they had seen the resolve that, you know, you can't beat them, just support them. And so we had 2 months. We didn't have a committee. We didn't have a budget. I think we are two very practical people. We're people who focus more on what's important. But it had its own issues also. The person who was supposed to, the person that we wanted to join us introduced us to somebody else because he was flying out. So introduced us to somebody else who said he would join the wedding. He backed off, was it on Wednesday or Thursday? On the Thursday to the wedding.
He called or you called?
I called him and he said, by the way, we did not set the date.
Yeah.
I'm out of town and blah, blah. So he went off. So I was calling, I was calling my mom the next day, which was the Friday. And it was the same Thursday. I called a certain pastor who was in Kisumu. Amazing man. I'd spoken at his church several times. And I called him, and immediately he told me, I know your wedding is this Saturday. I will attend because I have a meeting in Nairobi. And I said, sir, don't come to attend. Carry your book. And he said, wait a minute, what did you say? I said, carry your books. I said, why? I said, there's too much happening, I'll tell you. So he said, how bad is it? I said, it's very bad. So he said, we'll talk about it. Then he told me, all right, he had never met my wife. So he said, tomorrow, I'm coming in tomorrow. Let her come with you. When I get to Nairobi, I would like to meet her. I said, that's fine. But then in the night, what happened? You told me at midnight, the person who was supposed to do the catering said there shall be no food because there was no money. There was no money. The orders that were supposed to be made, we thought we would pay later. They said the suppliers cannot buy anything, so there will be no food.
So tomorrow you won't have.
I said to her, the cards say there shall be a reception at the same venue, so there will be food. And the next morning, the husband to the caterer came to see me because they were calling early in the morning. They were calling. I was putting up with some friends in Ngumba then for that night. And they were calling me and they wanted to know, how much do you have? And some guy had given me money to buy some shoes for the wedding, and it was something, I think I had about 3,000 shillings. When he came, when the husband to the caterer came, I gave him 3,000 shillings and I said, let there be food. This was my faith that God will multiply food. You know, when we finished after the wedding, it is the lady who was doing the catering who told us God multiplied food. She said that herself. I didn't say it. She's the one who said God multiplied food. Because people came in and they were able to eat, and there was leftover. You know, we finished the reception and I was laying hands on people on my wedding day so that they have breakthroughs. And when we finished, we didn't even have anywhere to go, you know, there was no honeymoon plan. The important thing was we wanted to get married, so we didn't mind if we were going to stay on the streets. It would be fine, because then I would say, this is my wife. And while we were trying to find a place, there's a friend of ours, he's now based in South Africa. He went around trying to get some people to get us a place to spend the night. Then the lady who had picked her, the only car available, she came in to see her husband in the city center. They came back to pick us. She was supposed to be away, so she was just supposed to drop her at the wedding and then leave. So we had no plan for how we were going to get off the wedding ground. But that lady stayed on for the whole while. And when they were getting us out of the wedding grounds, they asked us, "So where are you going?" And we said, "Home." The truth was, at that time, there was no home, because we were trying to find a different place to stay, and we couldn't. And they said, the husband said, "So why don't I take you somewhere for a night?" And we said, "Glory be to Jesus." He ended up paying for several days.
Three nights.
Yeah, he ended up paying for 3 nights. I said, God works miracles. To tell you the truth, our wedding did not cost 50,000.
No, it did not.
Our wedding did not cost 50,000. But you see, I always say it's not written on our faces.
No, you can't tell. It doesn't show.
It did not cost 50,000. So, yeah. Marriage is more than a wedding. Marriage is a covenant. Marriage is a connection. Marriage is a commitment. If you are not committed to each other, doesn't matter what you do on your wedding day. If there is no connection, doesn't matter how expensive you try to connect something that is not really connected. The interesting thing is that we are spending more on weddings. The budgets are going higher, but then the duration of marriages is getting shorter. People are divorcing at 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. They're separating at the first year. I think the important thing should be the two of you. What do you want to build? You see, most of the expenses we incur during weddings are for people. It's for people. The two of you can even just have a cake in their house and go to the AG. Yeah. I'm not saying they should go to the AG, but I'm just trying to show you that most of the other things that we do are usually for people. All those budgets are for people. So some of those budgets are the size of our egos, where we think that we've got to look in a certain way. It doesn't make sense to spend 1 million on a wedding and then go back in the back of Kayole somewhere in a room, and then you start living life over there, and you struggle to pay your rent of 6,000 shillings, and you have photos from a glamorous wedding. You should have invested that money.
The loss of a job can put the vow, for better or for worse, to the test. Unfortunately, Beryl lost her job, and Pastor Chris' preaching didn't earn much cash. Consequently, the couple had to deal with serious years of financial difficulties.
She never used to like the thing of me giving her money on the street.
Yeah. Like you would be traveling, you know that he's traveling, we parked and everything, and then I'm giving him a push. That's when now on the road, he decides to now look for whichever money he wants to leave me with. This is the thing. It's so bad. I'd be like, why did you do this in the house? All this while you're just in the house, you're like, don't give me money on the streets. You give me money from the house. Very little things. It would really, really irritate me, and he wasn't getting it.
It was very unconscious. Yeah, it was very unconscious. It wasn't a conscious thing. But I think, we shaped somehow by places, people we've met. My father was quite different. My father, you wouldn't know where he pulls his money from. That is, if he pulled it at all. So I thought, I'm being this very good person who's very open with his money, only to find out.
Bye. And then that's okay.
The problem is that she wouldn't have a problem giving me money on the street.
I wasn't thinking.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. So I had to make some of those adjustments, when she lost her job, just had to step up a little bit. So you begin to make every coin count. And my job, preaching is not the place you make money. There's a lot of thought out there that if you want to make money, you go into ministry. Not if you do it correctly. If you do it correctly, it really takes time. It's just like any other work. It takes time, takes energy. People have got to trust you. We are like business people, though we are in it for a different purpose, not profit making. For a businessman, they'll tell you this is the product, this is the amount, not for ministry. So making those adjustments, then having to do things, you want to pay the rent, you want to pay the bills, was quite crazy. And then we lived in a place where when you dress up, you're scared of people seeing you because they'll think you have a lot of money, according to them, their mind. We live in a kind of place where if the neighbor was playing a VCD, was it a, not DVD, VCDs. If they were playing the VCD, then it would show on my telly.
Yeah. It just comes on your screen.
Yeah, that's the kind of place we lived in. So, quite humble beginnings, you know, the kind of place where you don't want too many people getting to know where you are. And so I would meet people who were telling me, you are so lucky because you got a lady who is working. I'm thinking, you guys are crazy, you know, because some people thought that the shortcut is find a woman who is working and then she will get you the money. But that never was my mindset.
After the birth of their first son, Beryl saw it fit to assist her husband meet the needs of the family. She got a job, but this desire was suddenly cut short by the lack of a house help who would assist in taking care of their children.
Getting somebody to take care of the baby wasn't so easy. The initial months, we had a girl who I had met when I was in one of my preaching assignments, and she was in high school then she had cleared, and she stayed with us for quite a while and did a good job, but then she had to move on. So trying to get in house girls coming in was so frustrating for us. You come back home and you see the boy and you're thinking, this person is not doing good job. So she had to come back home again and raise the boy. I think God really has great value on our parenting because children are a heritage from God. And when God gives you somebody or someone, he expects you to take care of them. So if children come from God, there's a lot of people who are out there who are longing to have babies and they don't. So I thought, you know, what she was earning wasn't much. I'm thinking, this is such a great blessing that we had. At the time that my firstborn son was born, before then, no lady in her family would deliver a son as a firstborn and they live. My son was the first one who ever lived. And after that, now the other people were having sons and they would live. So I think, you know, I really had value over that, over the children. And I thought, just come back home. I'll raise my faith. And now we have 3 sons. Now we have 3 sons. They keep us going. Yeah, they keep us working harder because soon they will be asking for their inheritance.
Being that they are always busy with their careers and call in life, this dedicated couple have found a way to create balance between work and family.
Every stage has its own challenges. You know, even just having children coming in changes a lot of dynamics. When we lived in a smaller house, you know, I could sit over here watching telly, she's cooking over there, we can have a conversation going on. You move into a bigger house, it means if I want to watch telly, she wants to cook, then the conversations, either one of us has got to move. So even just moving into a bigger house begins to create a certain kind of separation like that. Then children come in and they also begin to take part of that attention. Yeah, you know, you wake up in the morning, they're already in there. In the evening, they don't want to move.
Before you wake up, you're back in your bedroom.
Yeah, so you try to make all these adjustments. We come home and she's first of all thinking the kids need to eat. I'm over there like, oh my God. I'm the one paying the bills over here. I'm so neglected.
Get home and my mind switches. I'm thinking of the kids eating. I'm all over the place. We almost feel forgotten sometimes, but I take care of everything.
Yeah. So just keep on getting to adjust and understanding that things will not always be the same. And it is how I react that matters, so how I respond to things. You can't always change the other person. You just change how you respond to things and how you look at everything around you, you know. Yeah, so I think that also came in. Sometimes we live in the same house more as partners or something, because there's so much work outside. We come back, we are so tired. When we wake up, we're going back to work. So there are those days you'll even forget to get a good night kiss, because you're so worn out, depending on who went to bed first. There's going to be those days, you know, it won't always be, you know, honey served me breakfast in bed. So there's adjustments. But the thing I love is that we work together. So we spend most of the day together. So that's really good. It creates a balance for us between work and family.
Once in a while, we travel together. Yeah. Once in a while, we travel together, just the two of us. And of course, at all of those times, he is working, but I do not mind, because at least we will just work some hours. If it's a speaking engagement, he'll speak, and then it will just be us. Yeah. I think all of those times we travel, he'll be speaking, not a problem, because men also don't like just being there. Just like the whole day just doing nothing, that's so hard for them, or at least for him, I know that. So once in a while we travel together. Yeah, we are working on even making it more. Yeah, we're doing more of that. So once in a while we go away together.
I think, again, every marriage, you've got to define how you relate. There's no clear rule book to it. You've got to define, because challenges are very dynamic. Like we are pioneers of ministry. It really takes a lot. So sometimes the stage of your marriage is different from the stage of what you're doing. Like you could be at over 10 years of marriage, but then you've just started a new company or started a new ministry. So that is going to take up a lot of your time. So it means that as much as sometimes you want to have so much time off again, you may not get it because of what is taking up your time. But you've got to keep on trying to define, how far do I go with what I'm doing, and how much do I give up of my family time, and how much should I retain no matter what.
Pastor Chris Atemo was raised in an environment where most of his peers had no fathers. Consequently, this fueled a desire in him to have a successful marriage and assist men through his program dubbed Mandate. Through Mandate, Pastor Atemo has been able to affect and influence different spheres of people in different cities in Kenya, East Africa, and South Africa, with a great emphasis on leadership development.
I had to go into the Bible to understand manhood. I had to really get into the study of the Word to understand what my roles are, who I'm supposed to be as a man, because I did not see that. And so just felt like, if we get men to come together and then we share from the scriptures. In 1 Kings 2:2, the scripture says, David said to his son Solomon, he said, show yourself to be a man. And that was the father giving instruction to us. And then most of us did not have fathers to give instruction to us. Because part of the roles of a father is, one, to give an identity to the children, whether it is male or female, to give an identity to them. The second one is to give them their assignment. And then the third one is to make sure that they walk within certain principles and rules. So when we don't have fathers, we struggle with identity, and that comes in forms of acceptance, acknowledgement. So you'll find people do all kinds of stuff just trying to seek acceptance because they did not know who they were. And that affects even the girls. But it's worse when the men do not know who they are. And when they don't know who they are, then they do not know what they are supposed to do, what they were called to do. So most of the people, then the authorities in their lives came in to correct the wrong, and nobody ever told them this is the path to walk. Jacob, again in the Bible, at the end of his journey in Genesis 49, he cast his sons. But the sons that he cast, Reuben, Simon, and Levi, they were born by Leah. But when they made mistakes, he came in later on to cast them. And that's what most men have faced with authority, where at the point they meet authority, authority comes in to incarcerate them, authority comes in to punish them, authority comes in to beat them up and tell them, you did wrong. And the question is, I did not even know what right was. So with Mandate, we try to bring that. We try to bring men, first of all, into a place where they understand that we were all created by God in the image of God. So God is ultimately our Father. Whether you have an earthly father or not, you can always look up to God. He's a perfect example of who a father is. And then we bring them in the knowledge of that, then they get to know their self-worth. And then we talk about their work. Usually, most people try to find their worth from their work, and that's a bit twisted. So when business goes down, they get depressed because they were trying to find their value in what they do. When their marriage is not working, when their finances are not working, then they get depressed. And a lot of marriages or relationships that are broken, mostly by men, it has got to do with something to do with the results of their work. When man was first created, there was nobody to talk to. So man is very work-oriented. He only had God, and then that's the only relationship he had, and then he had work. And that's what we've got to bring back, where a man has God first, and then he finds himself, then he gets to work. Now, when the woman came in, she found a man. So she's very relational. From the very first woman, she was talking. And now, if a man's relationship breaks down and his business is working, you'll find that they're fine. A woman, if her business or career is messed up, but her relationship is fine, you'll find that she's okay. So it's a bit like that. Now, if the man is broken because his work is not working, this woman is going to be affected. And sometimes men leave the house, they run away. Sometimes they leave not because they do not love their families, but because they cannot face their families. And it's the issue of value, where they found their worth in their work. And so we try to bring them back to the place where, your work is supposed to be a product of your worth, not your worth being a product of your work. So we were doing that with men, been doing it for a while. Had a break for a while, but picked it up again very recently. So we do that every third Saturday of the month, just training men, raising them up, teaching them all kinds of things, relationship, finances, dealing with their own battles, anger, sexuality, everything. You find there's a lot of people, they've got issues, a lot, especially with fathers. And so they bring the same thing into marriages. They bring the same things to their children, to their wives. And so we end up having bitter women. We end up having frustrated children. I remember I was teaching in one place, and one pastor got so confused because I told him my wife, most of the time she would have my ATM card. Please, for security purposes, she doesn't have it anymore. But so don't pursue her. But and I'd say she has my ATM card when I do travel. When I'm out of town, she would have my ATM card. And there's this gentleman. We went in to take tea. And he said, no, I would rather she knows how much is in there. I'd rather she gives me a list of what she needs. But, yeah, I'll buy it. But ATM card?
That's too much.
So that's too much. Yeah. And it's how we brought up. Because sometimes somebody has been told a woman should not know this. When you get married, it's not a woman. That's your wife. You can't call your wife a woman. So quite a number of things that have got to be broken, traditional mindsets. Even people who are in church, amazing how they still carry what their grandfathers said. And those thought patterns are formed over such a long time. And so they come in. You see, marriage was meant to be by a kind of a people. And it's in Colossians chapter 3 and 4. It is in Ephesians chapter 5, chapter 4, chapter 5. There's a certain kind of a people. For example, there are cars that were built up to be driven in the roads of Europe. You bring them to Africa, they're going to suffer. So marriage was supposed to be by a certain kind of a people. The scripture calls that a new man who was put off his old thinking, anger, malice, deceit, lies, all that kind of stuff. When you get to that place where you're honest with one another, you're peaceful in your spirit, you appreciate the other person, that marriage is going to work. When you carry all your hang-ups from the past, the bitterness, the pain, it does not matter who you marry. It's going to break down. And when you break down with the first person, the second one is going to break down again. So we're just trying to work out that with the men. It's not the easiest thing to gather men because they size you up. They want to know, so who are you? And they've got to come in. But the good thing with men is that when they get into it, then they really stick. So we're building up that over time. But I have tremendous testimonies of people who have gone through that in the first seasons that we did. And I look at their lives and I'm glad it's a worth investment. We've come a long way, all the years through. Life has a way of teaching lessons through the things that you experience. And out of those experiences, I've done a few things. One which is written several books. There's about 4 of them. I only have 2 in my hands. This is my latest book. It's called The Ways of the Wise. It's just wisdom nuggets that help people to make good decisions day to day. It's a meditational book. But then there is this one that I love because this is based on what I've done for so many years. This one is called Lions Uncaged. It is a book for men based on the ministry that I've been doing with men, Mandate, over the years. It has spread to various places. We've done Mandate in different towns, and it went out now, started doing it outside of the country. Keep on getting men who really want to connect, they want to hear things. Men don't easily open up. They don't easily go into places for help. They don't look for help. So I thought that putting down this resource was going to be very helpful for them. It takes them time to accept that they have certain things that they're struggling with. And also what that does to them is that they get isolated. Whenever men feel that they are struggling, they think they're the only ones struggling. And so it is important for them to know that they're not the only ones, whether they're struggling with fatherhood or they're struggling with relationships, how to relate with other brothers, who to be. Everybody says be a man. So we put down this, and the program of Mandate has metamorphosed, because it's not just now what we do face-to-face, people-to-people. We've had the opportunity now to have Mandate as a segment on our TV show, Life and Style, that I host every Wednesday, Relationship Wednesday, but we've got the first segment, which is Mandate. So we get men talking, we talk about topical issues, and it's very helpful. I get to places and people stop me, they say, you're doing a good job. And it's not just young people. In fact, most of the people who will tell me about the show are men who are in their middle age. They're not the kind of people who will say on Facebook that I was watching, they like a comment or something. They're the people who follow you quietly and silently, but they're watching and they're getting help. And it's interesting to get into a mall and then get people who are saying you're doing a good job, walk into a barber shop, and then these men are telling you you're doing a good job, because men are not that expressive, So I think I'm very grateful for the fact that Mandate has gone wide, both on the ground and the air. So we're doing that. Currently, I'm doing School of Leadership, because it's not just relationships that I talk about. I'm passionate about raising leaders and developing them. That is very connected to manhood also, because men are leaders, but just building and equipping people. So we run a School of Leadership also, a 3-month course, graduated a lot, recently graduated a certain lot, doing another. So we've got Module 1, Module 2, we do that in the city center. It's called the Chris Atemo School of Leadership. We've been expanding with churches, doing church growth all across. I'm currently working on a music project. So you see, life is a journey, and you stay on course on the journey. You don't give up, no matter how tough it has been over the years, no matter how tough it is at whatever level. The needs will change, but the course should never change. People come in and they live your life. Things happen. You will have a job today, not have a job tomorrow, get another job later, invest and lose the investment. All those changes in life should never remove you from the course that you set out to do. Greatness is locked up on the inside of you. So you got to ensure that you keep your eye on why you went into something the first place. I've come a long journey, and always carry the people that are important to you. Carry your family, carry friends that are true, authentic relationships. You got to invest in authentic relationships. That means that you yourself have got to be authentic, and then you cannot expect what you do not express. So when you're not authentic yourself, you don't expect to attract people who are authentic to you. And you got to keep some people in your life going on, growing with them, because they can tell the story. And there's always the joy of looking back and knowing I came from there and I am at this place. The process is, in fact, more joyful than the product. The joy of the product is what you overcame to get it. If you just stumble into something right now, no matter how big it is, it may not be as exciting as if you worked your way through it. So you'll realize that the very thing that was painful is the thing that also brings the joy. So never underestimate your process. Do not diminish the process. Do not subvert the process. Do not try to shortchange the process. Just go through the process. I'm a believer that God is working out something in people day by day, step by step, and always begin from where you are, and your dreams will come to pass. Cool.
It's just that. Oh, that's nice.
In addition, Pastor Chris has been invited to local television networks as a guest motivational speaker and panelist on different leadership segments and talk shows. He is currently the host of a life and style show, Relationship segment, that teaches young people on relationships.
For the ones who are already married, I have many things that I would say, but one that I really like telling a lot of people who are maybe newly married or already married, whichever way, people who are in marriage, is to treat each other well, the two of them. I mean, and be kind and be courteous. Those little things I realize really mess up so many people, so that you can really appreciate a friend out there. You can really thank them for the little things they do. Maybe they came by to see you. You really, really value your other friends. But then a lot of times, sometimes with a spouse, it's like he does something, you don't. The magic words, my 7-year-old will tell you these are the 3 magic words. Thank you, please, and I can't remember the other one. Yeah, so please, thank you. Yeah, sorry, my goodness. So important in a marriage. And don't ever take it for granted. You can say sorry to every other person except your spouse. It's very bad. So if you want good energy, you don't want negative energy around the house and around the two of you, I think you really should embrace please and thank you, even when you've been served food. At least my husband says thank you after meals, even though he doesn't really have to. I mean, who else is supposed to give him food? It's supposed to be me. But you see, doing that, it's like gaining more points. So it makes me even very happy. The energy is perfect in the house.
I think, and having talked about that, then I think I would just drop something on conflict resolution. And when you have a conflict, never ever settle on the non-issues or dwell on the non-issues. Always look at what is the issue. So if somebody says the dress you're wearing or the shirt you're putting on is not nice, don't make it something else. Yeah. Don't make it another issue. Yeah. Just get to understand it was the shirt, it was the dress. If somebody says there's too much salt in the food, don't start saying he doesn't like my cooking. Yeah. Don't mix up issues. Stay to the issues. And that helps you because honesty is very important. There's absolutely no way that you can live together for long and you're going to pretend about that. Honesty is very important, but how things are said also matters. I may have something to say, but how I said it, the attitude. Am I saying it to build or am I saying to break down somebody? Mm-hmm. So don't criticize and never publicly criticize your spouse. Never publicly criticize your spouse, not even in front of your children. We grew up in days when people were showing anger openly and then they were showing love secretly. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the things we deal with men, and then they think that it is okay to show anger and it is weakness to show love. It's supposed to be the other way. It's supposed to be that when I'm angry, I should be able to deal with it, and then I should show love. Sometimes we'll just hold each other in front of our boys, and then we tell them, look at us, and then they'll be like, oh. They really love each other. Like, oh. Really? But it's a training that we're trying to give them, to understand that this is all right to do that. And sometimes they'll come in and complain, why do the two of you call each other babe all the time, So we've got to learn how to appreciate one another, handle each other, handle conflicts, try as much as possible not to mix your emotions with the issues that come in. When you're angry and you know that you're going to blow up, don't deal with it. You can still raise up something when you've cooled down so that you don't, and I always say this, that there are certain words you don't use. One of them is never, and the other one is always. Yeah. So if somebody came late twice, don't say you're always late. If somebody forgot your birthday once, don't say you never. Because the whole argument will switch into the semantics, and it will be like, what do you mean never? You've forgotten these other times, so somebody's going to feel unappreciated. Mm-hmm. So just the little things. Don't lose the first things that brought you together. Yeah. Appreciation, attraction, acknowledgement. Don't forget those things.